Let me just verify that everyone can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see you. All good.
All right. Welcome everyone to the January 31st, 2023 Swan Fireside Chat. Our agenda today is actually fairly short, so we may get you out of here a little early. We're going to cover the recent symphony indexing issues, an update on the Addison 101 project, the message bee project for our message bee notices, an update on the NCOA process. Crystal will share some updates on the learning management system upgrade that recently happened. We'll also cover some Aspen information, including the server migration that happened this month, our Aspen tip of the month, and patron use report that shares some of the statistics available on patron use of the catalog. We'll also cover a recent EBSCO issue with statistics, some staffing updates coming, and upcoming meetings, trainings, and announcements, including our committee of the whole meeting coming up. So I am going to turn it over to Ian to go over the recent symphony indexing issues.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I want to just provide a little bit of insight into the issues that we've been kind of contending with over the past few days. But first, I wanted to just let everybody know that the cataloging freeze has been lifted. SwanCom went out just prior to this meeting starting. But if you have not seen that, cataloging practices may resume in full. No further restrictions at this time. So essentially, I kind of just want to walk through the timeline of what happened. So late Friday afternoon, there were a couple reports of some indexing errors, which typically present as, a heading not found or an error like heading key needs to be indexed or something like that. So we opened a ticket with Circe Dynix. We ran a couple scripts that we have, which should kind of scoop up any missing, that they're called keys. Basically, all the edits and changes, they're all, item keys and whatnot. The important part is if one of those keys gets dropped, it becomes unsearchable in the index. So we kind of cleaned those up. It seemed like things were working. However, our overnight processing resulted in some errors. One of the reports we run overnight is called ADU text, which is add, delete, and update text. So it basically runs through all the text indexes and checks every item that's been either added, deleted, or updated throughout the day, and then it writes those changes to the database. What happened is there were a couple items that were malformed, causing that report to terminate abnormally. So at that point, Saturday morning, we notified everybody that there were some issues that we were investigating. So we again ran through those scripts to try to clean things up. We got a hold of Circe Dynix. They were looking at the system. And what happened is when we ran the cleanup in the morning, it found 430,000 orphaned keys. So we restored those. There are two indexes that run. One is a dynamic index that runs throughout the day, picking up as soon as you add something, that dynamic index will pick it up and add it to the system so you can kind of see it. So the other index is the one that is updated overnight, and that is kind of the main index. So those keys all ran through the dynamic index, looked pretty good. And then every night we receive an email that lets us know how many edits are queued up for overnight processing. And again, those 430,000 keys showed up. And we can realistically only process about 40,000 keys through ADU text without significant delays. That number used to be a lot lower, but since we've moved into Azure, we have a little more breathing room. So we can process more overnight, but almost 500,000 keys would probably have taken days if ADU text was to process it. So at that point, Circe Dynix, Tyler Kazier, who was wonderful and was on the phone with me until well after midnight Saturday night, trying to strip out what we thought were bad keys. And we ended up finding the keys that were all processed outside of where this report ran. 400 some thousand keys were dropped into this edit directory within a 90-second window. So we basically stripped those out and allowed the 16,000 that were processed throughout the day to run. Unfortunately, when Cersei Dynamics was doing some cleanup, they overlooked one of the directories, which caused ADU text to run long Sunday morning. Fortunately, once those keys were removed, the report finished and the report's all cut up around 1:30. Everything looked good Monday morning. And then what essentially happened is, as soon as we said things are looking okay, there were, Rebecca, we certainly don't need to own up to that at all. But in any case, what happened was when those items were all loaded on Saturday night, ADU text encountered 2 problematic records. And unfortunately, a lot of these ILS systems or ILSs are built on some older technology, and the indexing essentially grinds to a halt if it encounters a problematic record, as opposed to setting it aside and moving forward. And in following best practices, that runs, and then every week we rebuild the entire index. So the report ran, it had those errors, and it dropped the nearly 500,000 edits, and then the re-indexing process then wrote that index. So Monday morning, everything looked fine, minus some items. So again, we fortunately weren't sure where those keys came from Saturday night. So we made a backup of all of the keys. So what we determined is that those keys basically fell out of the index and we needed to restore them to the index. So we were able to increase our report threads to allow 2 simultaneous reports. Cersei Dynamics set up an index rebuild on 2 portions of our database that were affected. There are 7 segments, only 2 were affected. And I know I'm kind of getting in the weeds, and I apologize for that, but I think it's kind of important to see some of how we're looking at things too. So essentially, those reports finished running about midday yesterday. The items appeared to be restored. This morning, all of the overnight reports ran clean. We've been doing some verification and checking. And at this stage, it appears as though we are in the clear and all of those records that were dropped out of the index have been restored. So essentially what happened is there are limits to tag entries within the MARC record, and the 700 tag is limited to 500 entries. This is a tag that's typically used with kind of the e-media streaming boxes and preloaded Kindles and whatnot, where titles are typically listed. But unfortunately, those 2 items hit that threshold and caused kind of the issues to happen. So what we have done is we have modified some of the system parameters, which should prevent this from recurring. There is still, we still need to follow that limit of keeping certain tags under their limits, which I'm not going to pretend that I know any of the tags besides the one that I'm talking about right now. But I'm sure our bibliographic services team would be happy to provide some insight on any limits that exist. So at this stage, if anybody encounters any problems, please let us know right away so we can investigate. But we don't anticipate any further issues. And we have applied some mitigation, which will hopefully prevent this from happening in the future.
And just since you called on bibliographic services, I'm going to clarify, and we're putting together some more clear documentation on this, and we'll send out another message sooner or later today with pointing to these details. But limit on headings, 500 is that magic number that we can't go over. So I would really encourage not to even approach 500, just to be on the safe side, but it applies to 700s, as Ian said, 700, 700, 730, 740, and 505 subfield Ts, those anything that's a title. Really anything, it's headings altogether, but the ones that we see heavy use of in certain records for streaming devices, for preloaded devices, are titles, and so that's really what we're looking at, keeping in mind when you're doing your cataloging, that we want to limit the number of titles that are in our records. It's still 500 is a pretty big number, so hopefully that's not too limiting in general, but you may have to do some curating of what you're advertising on your preloaded devices if it's starting to get high. So yeah, on the safe side, I would maybe stick to about half of that, 250, but the limit officially is 500, so that's what we'll say.
Thanks, Scott. And I also want to quickly say thank you to Michael Zarmak and Vicky Totten for giving me a hand over the weekend. The three of us kind of worked simultaneously on different things, getting messaging out, working with Cersei Dynex, and reviewing the system. So tremendous help that they provided. So thank you. And thanks again to Tyler from Cersei Dynex, who really put in a lot of work over the weekend with us. And I think that's all I have.
Yeah, we have one question in the chat related to IPLAR. Rebecca asked, we're supposed to report those titles on the IPLAR, and IPLAR requires they be in the catalog, so we may need to track the number of titles in a different way.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's that's sort of a sticky wicket, I suppose. In terms of, I don't really know offhand if this is sort of a technicality that you can get past. If the titles are listed in a 505 field that is not analyzed without the subfield Ts, you can sort of add as many 505 fields as you need to separate those out. That's not going to be an issue because those titles aren't given individual index entries. If it is a 505 subfield with indicator 00 and the subfield Ts, that is a different story because those do go into the indexing. So that is maybe one way to get your titles keyword indexed without using the title index, and maybe satisfying this strange IPLAR requirement at the same time.
Thanks, Scott. I think next up, if there's no more questions about the indexing issues, we have an update on the Addison Public Library process from Aaron.
Hi, everyone. This is Aaron Skog, SWAN Executive Director. So the request that came in from Addison Public Library for SWAN membership, just for background, we needed to move forward with the membership approval. Addison had already approved the SWAN agreement. I was at their board meeting, and their trustees unanimously approved the agreement to join SWAN as a full member. And the board reviewed the recommendation and issued that along with what's called an impact study. So we moved forward with that membership approval last week, and we were pleasantly surprised. We were very quickly moving towards the 2/3 requirement. So as of yesterday, when I checked, we do have 76 yes votes, 0 no votes. So in effect, the approval requirement has been achieved, but we'll leave that e-ballot open until February 22nd. I would encourage any libraries that have not participated, give it a try, and it'd be great to be able to tell Addison in the end how many votes we did get. So I'm just looking at this as also an opportunity to use the e-ballot system. I have been making sure that the directors that have changed at our libraries, and there's been a number of changes in various new directors or interim directors that those folks have been contacted. But if you happen to not get the ballot and you're really curious and want to look into it, feel free to just email me or reach out to me. I will send out one more reminder about the ballot probably tomorrow morning, and then we'll just let things kind of go from there. But you can find out more on our news post on our support site about the approval process. This is linked here, and this will be a link that you can click on once we post the presentation afterwards. And I think the next update was going to be from Scott, because we were looking at our project plan here.
Yeah, and so this is just the highest possible level timeline that I could provide to you to just give a sense of what the Addison migration is going to look like. Approval, of course, already happened. We are starting training with the Addison folk next month, sort of the end of the month, to just kick things off early. So the whole idea here is that we have a very extended timeline. And I will also say a relatively small migration team here at Swan. I know there can sometimes be concern, oh, you're doing another migration this year, it's batten down the hatches for Swan. Are other things going to fall behind? And this is sort of to illustrate that we are taking this at as leisurely a pace as we really can, so it doesn't consume too much of our time going forward. So training is nice and long. We're doing weekly sessions with them throughout the year. We're also going to be relying heavily on some of our pre-recorded trainings and our self-paced options, which will lighten the burden some. Data mapping and the test load, April to October, is also a very long period of time relative to at least what the Cersei Dynamics project team usually does. They suggest, oh, we can do a migration in 3 months. I'm trying to talk them into something a little longer, so we can live with their data on our test system for a long time without needing to rush through this process. And then the other points, the dates that are going to be important are, of course, a production data load, which will require a rebuild in November, as always. So that is, a day when we'll be fitting that into a weekend. But we'll have more details of that. Of course, we have 10 months to get there. And our projected go live date is November 14th, which is a Tuesday, putting us before the Thanksgiving holiday, but still giving us as much of 2023 to get this project together as we can. So yeah, it'll be probably, hopefully, a very smooth process, and hopefully you won't really be seeing much about it or of it until we have Addison's data in our system and they're ready to go. They have a pretty big collection, some interesting foreign language materials, big AV collection. I think it will be overall a boon to our sharing. So that's it. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But for the moment, this is going along very well. And that's it.
Thanks, Scott. If there's no questions about Addison, our next topic is message B. Michael.
Good morning, everyone. So for those of you who don't know, Message B, of course, is our future of Swan notices. It's a unique product. We had a vote back in December at the Swan Quarterly that approved this. And since then, or more specifically at the beginning of the year, since the holidays were at the end of December, we've been working with Unique on initial setup of notices for Swan and Carol Stream. We chose Carol Stream because they were one of our initial testing libraries. So they were pretty easy to start off with their template there. So this is included providing Unique with notice text, label text, menu text, and including translations in both Polish and Spanish. So when we go live with your email and SMS notices, we will have versions for English, Polish, and Spanish. I'm excited about that. In addition to that, we also provided them with library-specific information such as your name, your address, contact information, logos, colors, and links. So that's been moving along well. Our next steps, we will begin live testing of a Swan notice really soon. Unique is going to continue to build out additional templates for the Swan libraries, including the Message B portals. And we are going to be developing some training for you guys on how the Message B portal works, how to edit your templates, and so on. So really excited about that. And that's come up in February as well. And that's all I got today.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, the training is contingent upon the testing, which is contingent upon the templates. So the reason we have hard dates in this are because we're still waiting on those templates to be fully developed, at which point we can start testing. The testing is going to populate our SWAN dashboard. And it's that dashboard that we're going to then be using to train. So if there's nothing in there to look at, it's going to be sort of hard to use to train, but we can't really test it until the templates are ready. So that's where we are right now. Things are a tiny bit up in the air, but they will fall into place really quickly as soon as those templates are fully developed from on Unique's end. So that's what's going on. Thanks.
Thanks, Scott and Michael. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we can move to the NCOA update with Dave.
Good morning, everyone. This is more of a reminder than anything else with the NCOA project in the rearview mirror a little bit. Part of the point of doing this is to clean up the database and get rid of patron records for patrons that are no longer in your service area, or especially patron records that are out of state. And it's important to remember that removing patron records doesn't mean we're revoking anybody's borrowing privileges. It just means that their information's out of date, their last activity is well in the past, and if they come into any of your libraries, they can always get a new library card. We do have some pretty good documentation on our support site on steps you can take to make sure your patron records are in good order after doing NCOA. And part of this includes a bunch of reports that we've made in Blue Cloud Analytics. Now that we've done the NCOA process a couple of times, we've got folders for each year that we do it, and you can find the reports there. SWAN can automate removing patron records for you, including getting rid of bills under an amount that you specify. My colleague Vicki Totten did a quick list before this meeting, and we found that there are 7,888 records with the user cat 6 of NCOA 2022 that live out of state. There's really no reason to keep those records in the system, but again, it's up to you. So reminder, check out those reports, make sure you don't have a lot of invalid patrons hanging around the database that are really not your patrons. And that's all I've got for NCOA.
Thanks, Dave. Up next, we've got Crystal with training and support updates. Take it away, Crystal.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tara. I wanted to let you all know that we have done a little update to the user interface within the learning management system. So when you log in initially, it's going to look a little bit different. You'll be able to see there's a few different tabs at the top now. You'll see My Activities, and that'll give you your courses that you've completed and your certificates. And then if you go into My Learning, which is the second image here on this screen, you'll be able to see all of the courses and the progress that you have on each of them. So the user interface is mainly, it has all the same features. It was mainly just a little update for admin. It looks very different, but for you all, it should be pretty similar. But of course, if you have any questions, please put in a ticket at help@swanlibraries.net. And we have also, if you want to go to the next slide, we've also created a new course. It's called Demand Management. And this course is brand new and uploaded and ready for you all to take. And it kind of goes into the behind the scenes and really gets into the nitty-gritty of how holds work. And it's there for you all. And we look forward to you taking it and providing more courses for you. Do we have any questions?
No questions so far in the chat, and anyone feel free at any time if you want to add a question in the chat to any of the topics we've discussed so far, we'll definitely answer those for you.
Yeah, just to add, and I'm sorry if you said this and I blanked it out already, but the demand management course is part of a projected 4-part series on holds in general. 304 is the most complex version of it. There's also 301 through 303 in our pipeline for more practical holds maintenance topics. And also we are working on Claudia is working on, I should say, a course of, I believe, 5, possibly 6 courses, I forget the number, on SWAN cataloging local practices. So local practices related to books is one, AV materials in another. I'm sorry, I don't have the list in front of me, but those are going to be pretty cool for those of you who are working in our catalog, and even for those of you who aren't, to get a sense of how we catalog some of our things can give you a better idea of how to access them and how to push your patrons to them as well. So look out for those in the coming months.
Thanks, Crystal and Scott. Yes, and I just want to point out this very gross image for our demand management. If you're wondering, it's all about how the sausage of holds is made, so hence the sausage man. All right. Next up is just an update on the Aspen server migration. We just wanted to thank you all for your patience. On January 16th, the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, we moved our Aspen instance off of Swan hosting through Azure to managed hosting through Bywater Solutions, who we also contract with for ongoing Aspen development and support. We've been very happy with the level of support and service that we've received from Bywater. And so we were eager to have them kind of take over the hosting of Aspen. We're hoping that we'll see some long-term performance improvements for our catalog. For those of you that had experienced some load issues in the past, we're really hoping that we will see an improvement there with some of those load issues. So again, thank you for your patience. It was a really smooth migration, and I definitely want to shout out both Bywater Solutions and Rudy Host, who worked very closely with them to help make sure that migration was really nice and smooth and wrapped up, I think around 10 a.m. That Monday. So not a ton of downtime for the catalog there. So thank you again for your patience. And yeah, we're excited to keep monitoring our catalog performance. As always, we offer an Aspen tip of the month. So this month we wanted to highlight the linked accounts changes that came in December. If you have not noticed those, users can now change their PIN without breaking their linked accounts, which is handy, especially for folks that want to keep those linked accounts but forget their PIN and reset it every time, which is definitely a use case we've heard a lot. Users can remove accounts that have linked to theirs without changing their PIN. But obviously, if someone has your barcode and PIN, they might still be able to access your account. So users would be prompted with a recommendation to change their PIN at that time if they really wanted to keep that account secure. And Aspen also now displays kind of just overall more prominent messaging for patrons when someone has linked to their account. So they see it on their account dashboard and also at kind of a banner at the top of the catalog on all pages when someone has recently linked to your account. So we hope all those improvements will benefit patrons and help them keep their accounts more secure, but also more convenient, especially with the kind of being able to maintain the linked accounts even with PIN changes. And we also wanted to point out some changes to our patron use report. This is linked on the homepage of the support site, and it's a Google Data Studio dashboard that has some statistics on the usage of the Aspen catalog, Blue Cloud mobile app, and holds, especially just where patrons place holds. It gives you some nice graphics if you want to screenshot those and put them into board reports, for example. And some of the data can be specific to your library, some of it's consortia wide. We do encourage you to take a look at that, and also want to point out, if you've been following this report for a while, we have updated the Google Analytics data coming in from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4. Some of you may have been keeping an eye on that, maybe for your own library websites, and you may know that Universal Analytics will retire in, I believe, July 1st of this year. So we just went ahead and made that switch at the start of the year, and you will notice some differences, and the new system does track statistics differently, so there will be some differences in numbers. And in addition, the link has updated to the report since we had to create an entirely new dashboard with the new analytics system. So just wanted to point that out, but it is linked from the Swan support site on the home page. So you should be able to find that easily and get all kinds of fun stuff like really common search terms that your patrons are using, and usage of browse categories and placards and all of that kind of fun stuff. Next up, Olivia's going to talk about a stats issue with EBSCO.
Hi, everyone. So the beginning of this year, in January of 2023, at the beginning, EBSCO reported to all of its users that a series of defects were tied to the rollout of their new user interface. These series of defects caused both underreporting and overreporting in the database usage counts on the counter reports, which are the reports that we use. It does look like as of November of 2022, they have all been fixed, and EBSCO is confident that moving forward, all the usage counts are going to be correct. And we've discussed it here at SWAN. We have a plan in place for comparing the year-end statistics. If you have additional questions, please reach out to us at help@swanlibraries.net and get those questions answered. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. I don't see any questions in the chat so far. Scott, do you want to talk about our new staffing announcement?
Yeah, so after a lengthy and well, exciting search, we have hired a new bibliographic services manager to step into my role. And her name is Cynthia Romanowski. She comes to us from the academic world, but Illinois. She works in Illinois. College is Triton. She was at. She's currently at. I'm blanking. Of course, I'm blanking at this moment.
State.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And her start date is Monday, February 6th. So just in time for cataloging advisory, for example. We will be getting her sort of onboarded and transitioned over the course of February. Yeah, if you'll see her name places, you may start getting emails from her, Swan Comms and the like. We're very excited to have her join us. Yeah, I suppose that's it. We also have a cataloging and acquisitions user group coming up later in February that she will be attending. If you are very anxious to meet her, that would be a good thing to attend, to see her face for the first time. We'll be sort of giving her presentation to the world at that point. So thank you, and that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thanks, Scott. Next up, we have just our updates on user groups and upcoming events. First, I think Aaron wants to talk about the upcoming committee of the whole meeting.
Hi, everyone. Yes, this meeting was shared in our newsletter and is part of our kind of annual budget process, not kind of. We make sure to have a meeting with library directors to present the budget as a kind of a close to final draft and answer questions. So all that information I posted this morning prior to the committee, excuse me, prior to the fireside. This is a Zoom meeting, so it's all virtual. We will record and post this. If you're unable to attend it, that's okay. You can listen in as the recording is usually posted that same day, and follow up with questions with me directly, or if you have questions about the EBSCO purchase, that's in the packet. We have information in there as well. So all those documents are available on the meeting link that's posted here, which is under our support page under meetings and documents, SWAN Committee of the Whole meeting for 2023. So yeah, that's great. This is open really to anyone in the membership, but the questions really are meant for library directors, administrators, interim directors as well are welcome to attend.
Thanks, Aaron. We also have a few upcoming meetings. Our monthly office hours this month for Blue Cloud Analytics, Circulation IL Outreach, Circulation on Hold Map, Cataloging, and Aspen. As a reminder, the office hours are free form, no agenda. Just pop in with your questions. Sometimes we get people who like to lurk, but we always love it when you bring questions because it gives us fun things to talk about and problems to solve. So definitely keep an eye out for those office hours. They're a good chance to get some one-on-one help or investigate an issue with SWAN staff. So we hope to see you there. And then our upcoming user group meetings, I want to specifically call out our very first Aspen users meeting on Valentine's Day, February 14th. That will be helmed by Melissa from Oak Brook, Paul at Warrenville, and Sarah from St. Charles. So I believe Sarah cannot be there for this first meeting. This will be an opportunity for you all to kind of dig into the day-to-day usage of Aspen, how you're using it, some of your strategies, especially for things like managing browse categories, readers advisory features, how you customize your catalog and that fun stuff. And we'll also have meetings for ILL users, cataloging advisory, circulation users, acquisition and cataloging users that Scott mentioned will be your first opportunity to meet Cynthia, our new bibliographic services manager, as well as e-resources advisory and the director's coffee hour at the end of the month. And that is everything we have. We encourage you to join us at our next Fireside on February 28th. And happy 2023. We will stay on the line here for any questions that may come in the chat off the record, but I will stop the recording and have a wonderful Tuesday.